The Galactic Council thought humanity would surrender. The Krallen Empire thought humanity would run. Both were about to learn the same lesson. The hard way. Ambassador Elena Vasquez stood alone in the center of the Galactic Council chamber. The room was enormous. Rows of floating platforms stretched upward in a giant circle. Representatives from hundreds of worlds watched from their seats. Some had scales. Some had fur. Others looked like walking crystals or living clouds of light. At this moment, every eye in the chamber was fixed on one human woman. And none of those eyes showed hope. Only pity. Ambassador Vasquez, said High Counselor Thexa. The large reptilian leader sat above the chamber on a raised platform. The Council has reviewed Earth's request for military assistance. He paused. We have reached our decision. Elena already knew what was coming. 5 years as Earth's ambassador had taught her how to read alien expressions. And right now, the entire room looked uncomfortable. That was never a good sign. The Krallen Empire has submitted a legal territorial claim, Thexa continued. According to ancient star charts, they discovered those systems before humanity arrived. Elena remained silent. The Council recommends a peaceful transfer of the disputed colonies. For a moment, the room was completely still. Then Elena spoke. Peaceful transfer. Her voice was calm. But inside, anger was growing. High Counselor, 15 million humans live on those worlds. She looked around the chamber. The Krallens have given us 48 hours to leave. Her eyes returned to Thexa. That isn't a negotiation. It's an ultimatum. Several council members shifted nervously. A massive floating creature drifted forward. Its body looked like a giant jellyfish surrounded by glowing tendrils. Ambassador, it said softly, you must understand. The Krallens are a warrior species. They have not lost a war in 400 years. It is wiser to give them what they want. Elena stared at the alien. So the Council will not help us defend our citizens. The chamber grew quiet again. Finally Thexa answered. The Council does not interfere in disputes of this kind. Another representative nodded. Humanity is respected for its diplomacy, culture, and cooperation. Several aliens agreed. You are a peaceful species. A soft species. The words hung in the air. Elena felt her jaw tighten. One of the counselors continued. You possess no natural weapons. No armor. No great physical strength. The Krallens are larger, stronger, and far more experienced in warfare. So your advice is surrender? Elena asked. The counselor lowered his eyes. Our advice is survival. The giant doors behind the chamber suddenly burst open. A loud boom echoed through the room. Every head turned. War Master Drathel entered. The Krallen commander was enormous. Nearly 3 meters tall. Dark red scales covered his body like natural armor. Sharp claws clicked against the floor as he walked. His yellow eyes immediately found Elena. A slow smile spread across his face. Ah. The human ambassador. His deep voice rolled through the chamber like distant thunder. I wanted to hear your answer myself. Elena faced him without moving. Drathel stopped only a few feet away. The size difference between them was almost ridiculous. Yet she refused to take a single step backward. War Master Drathel, she said. Humanity's answer is no. The room froze. We will not abandon our colonies. For several seconds nobody spoke. Then Drathel laughed. The sound echoed through the chamber. You. He shook his massive head. You intend to fight us? More laughter followed. You have no claws. No fangs. No natural weapons. His eyes narrowed. You are prey animals pretending to be warriors. We are stronger than you think, Elena replied. Drathel chuckled. I've reviewed your military records. Your ships are slow. Your weapons are outdated. Your soldiers are fragile. The Council is correct. You are a soft species. He leaned closer. His giant face filled her vision. In 48 hours my fleet arrives. Your people may leave peacefully. Or they may die. Elena didn't blink. Didn't move. Didn't look away. Drathel stuttered her. Then she spoke. I guess you're about to learn something. Instead, his voice remained steady. You learned the first lesson about fighting humanity. Draffel 1. The captain leaned forward slightly. We have dozens of colonies. We have entire fleets. And we have only begun. His eyes hardened. If you come back, we'll show you what real war looks like. The transmission ended. No one spoke for several seconds. Finally, Draffel sat heavily in his command chair. 12 ships destroyed. Hundreds dead. A humiliating retreat. And worst of all, the humans hadn't sounded worried. They had sounded confident. Draffel slowly looked at his officers, then toward the stars beyond the viewport. For the first time since becoming War Master, he wasn't thinking about victory. He was thinking about what would happen if the humans were telling the truth. And far away, on New Britannia, Captain Marcus Chen watched the retreating enemy fleet disappear into the darkness. His executive officer approached quietly. Sir, we lost 3 ships. Chen nodded, including the vessel that had carried Commander Rodriguez on the suicide strike. For a moment, neither man spoke. Finally, Chen looked toward the stars. Make sure their families know the truth. What truth, sir? Chen's eyes remained fixed on the tactical display. That they saved 15 million lives today. He paused. Then a faint, cold smile appeared. But this isn't over. The officer followed his gaze. You think they'll return? Chen nodded. Without hesitation. Oh, they'll come back. The Krallans have never lost a war. They won't accept this. His smile faded. And next time, they'll bring everything they have. Far beyond the colony, the first storm clouds of a much larger war were already beginning to form. And neither side yet understood how costly that war would become. The news spread through the Krallan Empire like wildfire. For the first time in 400 years, a Krallan invasion fleet had been defeated. Not delayed. Not forced into a temporary withdrawal. Defeated. 12 warships destroyed. Thousands of warriors dead. And all at the hands of a species the galaxy called soft. On board the Imperial Dreadnought Iron Dominion, Empress Shalara watched the battle recordings for the 4th time. The bridge was silent. No one dared speak. The images played again. Human ships emerging from hiding. Railgun strikes. Drone swarms. Nuclear attacks. The destruction of the Crimson Fang's escort fleet. Every frame felt like an insult. Finally, Shalara slammed a claw into her throne. The impact cracked the metal. Unacceptable. The single word echoed across the command deck. War Master Draffel stood before her. Head lowered. He had faced enemy fleets without fear. But standing before an angry empress was another matter entirely. 12 ships, Shalara growled. 12. She rose from her throne. You were sent to crush a colony. Instead, you handed humanity a victory. Draffel remained silent. There was no excuse. No explanation she would accept. After a long pause, he finally spoke. The humans do not fight as other species do. Shalara's eyes narrowed. Explain. They use deception. They hide their strength. They ignore battlefield traditions. He hesitated. They fight to achieve results, not honor. The room grew quiet. Several commanders exchanged uneasy looks. Shalara laughed. A cold laugh. So the mighty War Master fears a species of hairless primates. No, Empress. Draffel raised his head. I fear underestimating them. The laughter stopped. For a moment, nobody moved. Then Shalara turned toward the tactical display. A massive star map appeared. Human territory glowed blue. Krallan territory glowed red. The blue region looked tiny. Insignificant. Weak. Or at least it should have. We will teach them a lesson. Her voice was hard as steel. Gather the Grand Armada. Several officers looked up immediately. The Grand Armada had not been deployed in over a century. It was the largest military force in the Empire. 200 ships. The room became silent. Even Draffel felt his stomach tighten. 200 ships. Enough to conquer civilizations. Enough to erase entire star systems from history. We attack Proxima Station. Shalara's claws tightened. We crush them. We burn their colonies. And we remind the galaxy why nobody challenges the Krallen Empire. Draffel wanted to argue, but he already knew it was useless. The decision had been made. War was no longer coming. War had arrived. 3 weeks later, the edge of human space. More than 200 Krallen warships emerged from faster than light travel. The sight was breathtaking. Rows of battleships stretched across the stars. Heavy cruisers. Attack carriers. Missile platforms. Dreadnoughts. It looked less like a fleet and more like a moving continent. On Proxima Station, Admiral Viktor Kovic watched their arrival. His expression never changed. The tactical display showed the numbers clearly. 217 enemy vessels. The largest military force humanity had ever faced. Confirm count. The officer nodded. 217 ships, sir. Kovic folded his hands behind his back. What is the status of our preparations? The room immediately came alive. Defense platforms operational. Minefields deployed. Civilian evacuation complete. Fleet units in position. Special packages ready. Kovic nodded once. Good. Everything was proceeding according to plan. He looked around the command center. Most of the officers appeared nervous. That was understandable. The enemy outnumbered them heavily. But Kovic had fought wars his entire life. He had learned something important. Numbers alone did not decide battles. People did. And human beings could be extremely stubborn when defending their homes. Open a channel. Moments later, the face of Empress Shalara appeared on the main screen. She looked confident. Victorious. As if the battle had already been won. Human Admiral. Her voice carried obvious contempt. I am Empress Shalara of the Krallen Empire. You have 1 hour to surrender Proxima Station. Refuse. She smiled. And every human in this system dies. The command center fell silent. Everyone watched Kovic. The Admiral simply sighed. Then he spoke. Empress. His voice remained calm. I need you to understand something. Shalara raised an eyebrow. When you attacked New Britannia, you started something you don't understand. The smile disappeared. Is that a threat? No. Kovic shook his head. It's a warning. The Empress laughed. The sound filled the room. You have perhaps 50 warships. I have more than 200. You are in no position to warn me. Kovic studied her carefully. Then he said something unexpected. You can still leave. The bridge went silent. Even Shalara looked surprised. You can turn around. You can go home. You can end this before more people die. The Empress stared at him, then burst into laughter. The officers around her joined in. You think I fear humanity? Kovic's expression remained unchanged. No. I think you should. The transmission ended. For a moment, nobody spoke. Then Kovic turned toward his staff. Well, we tried diplomacy. A few officers smiled. Others simply nodded. The Admiral looked toward the tactical display. The giant red fleet continued advancing. Slowly. Confidently. Like a predator approaching wounded prey. Kovic pressed a command key. A classified file appeared. Only senior officers had access to it. Its title read, Total Defense Doctrine. The Admiral looked around the room. Then gave the order. Unleash hell. The battle began 23 minutes later. The first Krallen ships entered the outer defense zone. Nothing happened. The second wave followed. Still nothing. Shalara smiled. Perhaps the humans were already breaking. Then the mines detonated. The darkness exploded. Thousands of hidden weapons activated simultaneously. Fire filled space. Entire sections of the Krallen formation vanished. Warships disappeared inside expanding nuclear explosions. Others lost engines. Some broke apart completely. The opening strike destroyed dozens of vessels before they fired a single shot. The bridge of the Imperial Dreadnought erupted into chaos. Minefield. Multiple casualties.
Formation collapsing.
Shalara slammed a claw onto her console. Push forward. The surviving ships advanced. More explosions followed. But eventually the fleet broke through. And then the defense platforms opened fire. Shalara expected lasers. Maybe missiles. What she saw instead made her freeze. A white flash appeared in the distance. Then another. And another. Entire Krallen ships simply vanished. Not exploded. Vanished. Matter disappeared in blinding light. What weapon is that? Her science officer quickly checked the data. Then looked up in horror. Antimatter. The bridge became silent. Even Shalara stopped speaking. Humanity had weaponized antimatter. One of the most dangerous forces in existence. 3 dreadnoughts ceased to exist within seconds. The battle had barely started. And already the losses were severe. Then the human fleet arrived. Not small raiders. Not hidden ambushes. Real warships. Hundreds of railguns opened fire simultaneously. Metal projectiles accelerated to incredible speeds. Krallen shields struggled to stop them. Many failed. Ships exploded. Others spun helplessly through space. The battle became chaos. But the worst was yet to come. Suddenly, lights began flickering across dozens of Krallen vessels. Weapons stopped responding. Navigation systems failed. Entire ships went dark. What is happening? The answer arrived moments later. We are under cyber attack. The word shocked everyone. The humans were attacking their computers. Not their ships. Their computers. Defensive systems crashed. Communication networks collapsed. Entire sections of the fleet became blind. Human warships immediately exploited the weakness. Precision strikes followed. One disabled vessel after another disappeared. As if being executed. But humanity wasn't finished. Every Krallen ship suddenly began receiving transmissions. Audio messages. Videos. Historical recordings. At first nobody understood. Then the messages started playing. Human battle speeches. Ancient war songs. Recordings of historical victories. Stories of impossible battles. Voices from thousands of years of warfare. One transmission appeared on nearly every screen. A calm human voice spoke in perfect Krallen. You have never lost a war. Do you know why? The bridge became silent. Because nobody ever made you earn victory. Images appeared. Ancient battlefields. Burning cities. Soldiers fighting in ruins. Human history. Violent. Brutal. Endless. We are humanity. We spent thousands of years fighting ourselves. We learned every lesson war could teach. The images continued. Old Earth conflicts. Ancient sieges. Modern wars. Future wars. One battlefield after another. Generation after generation. We studied every mistake. Every defeat. Every victory. And now. The voice became colder. You are fighting the result. The transmission ended. Silence filled the bridge. For the first time, many Krallen officers understood what they were facing. Humanity wasn't a peaceful species that learned war. Humanity was a warrior species that learned peace. And there was a difference. A very dangerous difference. The Battle of Proxima Station lasted 16 hours. When it finally ended, the galaxy changed. Forever, the Battle of Proxima Station was over. But the war was not. In many ways, it had only just begun. Empress Shalara stood silently aboard her flagship, staring at the casualty reports. The numbers refused to make sense. 89 warships destroyed. Thousands of experienced warriors dead. Entire battle groups erased. And despite all of that, humanity still stood. Proxima Station remained operational. Human fleets were arriving as reinforcements. And worst of all, the humans had started attacking back. Reports flooded into the Imperial Command Network every hour. Fuel depots destroyed. Communication relays gone. Supply stations reduced to debris. Shipyards burning. The attacks came from every direction. No warning. No challenge. No opportunity to prepare. Human strike forces would appear, destroy a target, and vanish before Krallen reinforcements arrived. It was driving the Empire mad. On Earth, however, things looked very different. Inside Fleet Command, Admiral Kovich watched the latest updates arrive. A young officer approached his station. "Sir, the strike groups have completed another operation." Kovich looked up. "Results?" The officer smiled slightly. 3 fuel depots destroyed. 2 supply stations. And 1 major shipyard. Several officers nearby exchanged satisfied looks. The strategy was working. Humanity understood something the Krallens did not. Wars were not won by destroying armies. Wars were won by destroying the enemy's ability to continue fighting. A fleet without fuel was useless. A battleship without ammunition was useless. A military without supplies eventually collapsed. The humans weren't trying to win a single battle. They were trying to win the entire war. And that made them extremely dangerous. Far inside Krallen territory, Commodore Marcus Chen led one of those strike forces. His flagship, the UEF Retribution, moved silently through enemy space. 30 warships followed behind him. Every crew member knew their mission. Hit hard. Move fast. Never stay long enough for retaliation. A tactical officer turned toward Chen. "Sir, we are approaching Cal 7. Chen nodded. Cal 7 was one of the Empire's largest fuel facilities. Destroying it would cripple operations across multiple sectors. Enemy defenses. Minimal. The Commodore smiled. "Good." He looked around the bridge. "Let's make this quick." Minutes later, the attack began. Human drones launched first. Hundreds of them. Small. Fast. Disposable. They swarmed across the defensive platforms surrounding the refinery. Explosions erupted everywhere. Before the defenders could react, railgun rounds slammed into the facility. Massive storage tanks ruptured. Fire spread rapidly. The entire station became a floating inferno. Less than 15 minutes later, it was over. The refinery was gone. And the human fleet had already disappeared. Another target removed. Another wound inflicted. Another reminder that nowhere was safe. Back on the Krallen homeworld, tensions were rising. The people had never experienced war like this. For centuries, conflict had always happened somewhere else. Other worlds. Other civilizations. Never them. Now every news report carried stories of human attacks. Destroyed installations. Lost fleets. Economic shortages. Citizens were becoming afraid. And fear was spreading faster than any human fleet. Inside the Imperial War Chamber, Empress Shalara sat at the head of a massive table. Her senior commanders surrounded her. None of them looked happy. One officer activated a holographic display. "Our fuel reserves continue to decline." Another officer added new data. "Production has fallen by 22%. A third commander spoke next. "Ship construction has slowed significantly." The room became silent. Shalara's claws dug into the table. "Then stop them." No one answered. Because everyone knew the truth. They couldn't. Every time they deployed ships to intercept human raiders, the humans disappeared. Every time they concentrated defenses in one area, attacks happened somewhere else. The enemy seemed impossible to predict. War Master Drathel finally broke the silence. "The humans are fighting a different kind of war." Shalara looked toward him. His expression remained serious. "They understand logistics. They understand infrastructure. They understand economic warfare." One commander frowned. "They destroy targets that have no military value." Drathel shook his head. "Everything has military value." The room fell silent. The fuel stations. The shipyards. The communication networks. The supply routes. He pointed toward the display. "They are not attacking random targets. They are dismantling our empire piece by piece." For the first time, several officers looked genuinely worried. Because Drathel was right. The attacks weren't random. They were systematic. Carefully planned. Every strike weakened the empire. Every success made the next attack easier. Meanwhile, across the galaxy, The Galactic Council watched with growing concern. The same council that had once dismissed humanity now struggled to understand what was happening. High Councillor Thexa sat in an emergency session as reports filled the chamber. The Krallen Empire has lost 7 more supply hubs. Human strike forces have entered 3 new sectors. Additional attacks reported near border systems. The council members exchanged nervous looks. One representative finally spoke. "This is escalating." Another nodded. "Humanity is becoming aggressive." A third councillor looked uncomfortable. "Perhaps we misjudged them." Thexa remained silent, because he knew they had. The council had seen artists, diplomats, scientists, explorers. They had never seen this side of humanity, and now it was impossible to ignore. At that moment, the chamber doors opened. Ambassador Elena Vasquez entered. Every eye turned toward her. The atmosphere immediately changed. Months ago, she had stood here asking for help. Now she stood here as the representative of a species that had challenged a galactic superpower and survived. Thexa spoke first. "Ambassador, thank you for coming." Vasquez nodded politely. "You requested a meeting." The councillor hesitated, then asked the question everyone wanted answered. "How far does humanity intend to take this war?" The room became completely silent. Vasquez looked around the chamber, then answered, "As far as necessary." Several council members shifted uncomfortably. "We did not start this conflict." Her voice remained calm. "We asked for peace. We requested support. We were threatened. We were attacked." She folded her hands behind her back. "Now we are defending ourselves." One representative leaned forward. "By attacking Krallen infrastructure. By blockading their colonies." Vasquez met his gaze. "Yes." The answer came without hesitation. The councillor looked shocked. "Civilians are suffering." For a moment, Vasquez said nothing. Then she replied, "So were ours." The chamber fell silent again. No one had a response. Because she wasn't wrong. The Krallens had chosen this war. Now they were discovering its cost. Back in Krallen space, another disaster was unfolding. Warmaster Drathel stood on the bridge of his flagship as alarms sounded throughout the vessel.
Incoming contact.
His head snapped toward the tactical display. How many? 30 human ships. Drathel immediately recognized the formation. Marcus Chen. It had to be. The human Commodore had become something of a nightmare throughout the Empire. Every commander knew his name. Every fleet feared appearing on his target list. Prepare for battle. The fleet immediately moved into defensive formation. This time would be different. This time they were ready. At least that was the plan. The human ships arrived minutes later. Weapons blazing. Railguns firing. Missiles streaking through space. The battle erupted instantly. Unlike previous attacks, however, the humans didn't retreat. They stayed. They fought. Ship against ship. Fleet against fleet. Drathel narrowed his eyes. Something felt wrong. Marcus Chen wasn't reckless. If he was staying, there had to be a reason. Then Chen's voice appeared across open channels. "War Master." Drathel looked toward the communication officer. "Put him through." Chen appeared on screen. Calm as always. Almost relaxed. "I wanted you to see this personally." Drathel frowned. "See what?" Chen smiled. "Behind you." The War Master immediately turned toward the tactical display. His blood ran cold. Another fleet had appeared. 30 additional human ships. They had emerged directly behind the moon's defenses. Hidden. Undetected. And now they were attacking everything. Shipyards. Factories. Supply centers. Orbital stations. Explosions covered the tactical display. The entire battle had been a distraction. A trap. Chen had never intended to win this engagement. He only needed Drathel focused in the wrong direction. The realization hit like a physical blow. We've been deceived. Around him, officers stared helplessly at the destruction. By the time the Krallen fleet could react, it was already too late. The facilities were gone. Months of production erased in minutes. The human fleet eventually withdrew. But before leaving, Chen sent one final message. The transmission appeared across every Krallen vessel. War Master Dreffel watched silently. Chen's face filled the screen. "You're a good soldier." The words surprised everyone. "You fight bravely. You fight with honor." Then his expression hardened. "But honor won't save your empire." The bridge became silent. "Tell your empress something." Dreffel stared at the screen. Chen leaned slightly forward. "If this war continues..." His voice became colder. "The next attack won't target your moon. It won't target your shipyards. It won't target your supply depots." A long pause followed. Then he finished. "It will target your homeworld." The transmission ended.
No threats. No shouting. No dramatic speeches.
Just a simple statement. And somehow, that made it far more frightening. As Dreffel looked at the burning wreckage surrounding him, he realized something terrible. The Krallen Empire was no longer fighting for victory. It was fighting for survival. And humanity still had more surprises waiting. The war was entering its most dangerous phase. The attack on the moon of Cray Prime changed everything. For the first time in 400 years, fear spread across the Krallen Empire. Not fear of a rival empire. Not fear of a natural disaster. Fear of defeat. Citizens watched burning orbital stations fall from the sky. News networks reported fresh shortages every day. Factories were shutting down. Trade routes were collapsing. Entire colonies were running low on supplies. And everywhere people asked the same question. How were the humans doing this? Inside the Imperial Palace, Empress Shalara sat alone in her throne room. The lights were dim. The massive chamber felt emptier than ever. One report after another appeared on the display before her. Economic losses. Military losses. Food shortages. Fleet shortages. Every report told the same story. The Empire was bleeding. And the bleeding would not stop. The doors slowly opened. War Master Dreffel entered. His armor was damaged. His posture tired. He looked older than he had only months before. The war had changed him. He approached the throne and stopped. Neither spoke for several moments. Finally Shalara broke the silence. "You've come to tell me more bad news." It wasn't a question. Dreffel lowered his head. "Yes, Empress." She laughed softly. A bitter laugh. "Then say it." Dreffel took a deep breath. The words felt heavier than any weapon. "We cannot win." The room became silent. Shalara stared at him. For a moment she looked angry. Then sad. Then simply exhausted. "Explain." Dreffel nodded. "The humans are not stronger than us. They are not larger than us. They do not have more ships." He paused. "But they fight differently." The tactical display activated. Images appeared. Destroyed shipyards. Burning fuel depots. Dead fleets. Ruined infrastructure. They attack everything. They use every advantage. They adapt faster than we can respond. Another image appeared. Human strike forces. Human fleets. Human supply networks. Human industry. Dreffel pointed toward them. "They are fighting for survival." His voice grew quieter. And a species fighting for survival is the most dangerous enemy in existence. The room fell silent again. We fight for conquest. They fight because they believe they have no choice. Shalara slowly looked away. She already knew he was right. Deep down, she had known for weeks. The Empire could continue the war, but it would destroy itself doing so. At last, she spoke. "What do you recommend?" Dreffel answered immediately. "We negotiate." The words felt impossible. Yet neither argued. Because both knew the truth. The war was already lost. Several hours later, a transmission was sent across the galaxy. The destination shocked everyone. Earth. The Krallen Empire wanted peace talks. News spread rapidly. The Galactic Council could hardly believe it. Species that had spent centuries fearing the Krallens stared at the reports in disbelief. The undefeated Empire had surrendered. And humanity had forced it to happen. 3 days later, representatives from both sides met aboard Haven 7, a neutral station located between human and Krallen territory. The conference room was simple. A long table. 2 delegations. 1 future. High Counselor Thexa stood at the center, serving as mediator. He still struggled to understand how events had reached this point. Only months earlier, humanity had been dismissed as weak. Now the entire galaxy was watching them. Empress Shalara sat on one side of the table. Across from her sat Ambassador Elena Vasquez, Admiral Kovic, and Commodore Marcus Chen. The meeting began. Thexa cleared his throat. Empress Shalara, you requested these negotiations. Please state your proposal. The Krallen ruler looked older than before. The confidence she once carried had faded. The Krallen Empire withdraws all claims to human territory. Her voice was steady. We will cease military operations immediately. She paused. We request the same from humanity. The room remained silent. Everyone looked toward Vasquez. The ambassador folded her hands. Humanity is willing to accept peace. Several people visibly relaxed. Then she continued. Under conditions. The relaxation disappeared instantly. The terms appeared on the display. Full withdrawal from disputed systems. Financial reparations. Military reductions. Independent observers. Long-term security agreements. The Krallen delegation looked uncomfortable. The conditions were severe. Shalara stared at the list, then slowly looked toward Vasquez. These terms are harsh. Vasquez met her gaze. So we're sending 200 warships to our colonies. Neither woman looked away. The room remained silent. Finally, War Master Drathel spoke. We accept. Several Krallen officials looked shocked. Even Shalara seemed surprised. But Drathel simply nodded. The war is over. His voice carried no anger. Only acceptance. Continuing will only create more suffering. For a moment nobody spoke. Then Shalara slowly nodded. We accept. The treaty was signed. Just like that. 400 years of Krallen victories ended with a single signature. But before the meeting ended, Drathel turned toward Commodore Chen. There was one question he still needed answered. Human. Chen looked at him. Yes. The War Master studied him carefully. How? The room became quiet. How did your species become so good at war? Chen leaned back slightly, thinking. Then he answered. Because we had to. The words were simple. Yet everyone listened. Our ancestors weren't strong. We weren't the biggest predators. We weren't the fastest. We survived because we adapted. A holographic display appeared. Images of Earth filled the room. Ancient battlefields. Cities. Soldiers. For thousands of years, humans fought each other. The images continued. Wars. Empires. Revolutions. Conflicts. Victories. Defeats. We learned from every mistake. We studied every battle. We remembered every lesson. His voice remained calm. Eventually, war became something we understood very well. The room watched silently. Chen looked directly at Drathel. You spent centuries fighting wars. We spent millennia studying them. No one had a response. Because the truth was obvious. Humanity hadn't become dangerous overnight. It had been building that knowledge for thousands of years. The galaxy simply hadn't noticed. 1 week later, Ambassador Elena Vasquez returned to the Galactic Council. The atmosphere was completely different from her first visit. The same representatives were present. But now they watched her with respect. And caution. The chamber became silent as she stepped forward. The war is over. Her voice echoed through the room. The Krallen Empire has accepted peace. A murmur spread across the chamber. Even now, many still struggled to believe it. Vasquez continued. When humanity asked for help, we were told we were weak. We were told surrender was the only option. Her eyes moved across the room. You judged us by our appearance. You saw diplomats. You saw artists. You saw peaceful people. She paused. You were not entirely wrong. The representatives exchanged confused looks. We do value peace. We do value cooperation. We do value diplomacy. Her voice became firmer. But peace only matters when people are willing to respect it. The chamber remained silent. If someone threatens our homes, if someone threatens our families, if someone threatens our allies. She let the words settle. We will fight. No one doubted it anymore. Not after everything they had seen. Then Vasquez smiled slightly. But that's not the lesson I want you to remember. The representatives looked up. The lesson is this. Her voice softened. Humanity prefers friendship. Several counselors exchanged surprised glances. We are strongest when building, creating, exploring, helping. She spread her hands. If you come to us in peace, you will find no better ally. The silence that followed felt different. Not fearful, hopeful. One by one, representatives began requesting alliance discussions, trade agreements, security partnerships, cultural exchanges. The galaxy was changing, and humanity was becoming one of its most important powers. Months later, Warmaster Drathel stood on a balcony overlooking the capital city of Cray Prime. The war was over. Reconstruction had begun. For the first time in a long time, the future seemed possible again. Footsteps approached. He turned. To his surprise, it was Commodore Marcus Chen. The two warriors stood side by side, looking out over the city. After a moment, Drathel spoke. Tell me something. Chen smiled. Go ahead. Did you hate us? The question hung in the air. Chen looked genuinely surprised. Hate you? Drathel nodded. We killed your people. We attacked your colonies. We threatened your species. Chen thought for a moment, then shook his head. No. Drathel blinked. No. No. Chen looked out toward the horizon. We fought because we had to. Not because we wanted to. The Warmaster remained silent. Chen continued. War ends. People move forward. Enemies become neighbors. Sometimes they even become friends. Drathel laughed softly. That is a very strange idea. Maybe. Chen smiled. But it works. For the first time since the war began, Drathel found himself smiling too. Perhaps humanity's greatest strength wasn't their weapons, or their tactics, or their fleets. Perhaps it was something else. The ability to fight fiercely when necessary, and then choose peace when the fighting was done. Years later, historians across the galaxy would study the human Krallen War. They would analyze the battles, the strategies, the technologies, the political consequences. But most would reach the same conclusion. The Krallens lost because they underestimated humanity. They saw a peaceful civilization and assumed it was weak. They forgot an important truth. Peaceful does not mean harmless. And the galaxy never made that mistake again.